In the early hours of December 3rd, 1984, an entire city woke up to a living nightmare. Today, we're going to break down the Bhopal disaster, the world's deadliest industrial accident. It's a story about how a series of absolutely catastrophic failures, really born from negligence and cost-cutting, unleashed a chemical apocalypse on a completely unsuspecting city.
Just try to imagine that. 1 minute, you're asleep in your bed. The next, you're jolted awake, coughing violently, your eyes are on fire, and you're fighting for every single breath. An invisible poison was just silently flooding into homes, into the streets, everywhere.
And the immediate toll was just staggering. By sunrise, the streets were literally littered with the bodies of people who just couldn't escape. 3,000 people died in a single night.
But, the devastation was so much wider than just the people who died right away. 500,000 people were exposed to that toxic cloud. 500,000 lives were just forever changed by the injuries they got that night. And here's the thing. The tragedy didn't just stop when the gas cleared. That poison lingered. It stayed in people's bodies, in the environment. To this day, the death toll from that one single night keeps climbing. It's now over 25,000. This wasn't just a one-night event. This is a disaster that has spanned generations.
So to really get a handle on the scale of this, we have to go back to that terrifying morning. We need to see what it was actually like for the people on the ground.
Eyewitnesses described a scene that was just pure chaos, something out of a horror movie. People were fleeing their homes, but as they ran, they were actually running deeper into the poison cloud. And think about this, the act of running, of breathing more heavily, was just forcing them to inhale more of the very poison that was killing them.
So what was this invisible killer? Where did it come from? Well, the source was a nearby pesticide plant, owned by an American company, Union Carbide. And inside that plant, in a storage tank with the designation E610, was the chemical that would change Bhopal forever. The culprit was this stuff, methyl isocyanate, or MIC for short. It's a key ingredient for pesticides, but it is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And the single most important thing you need to know about it, the fact this entire story really hinges on, is that it reacts violently with water. When that happens, it boils and turns into this heavy, poisonous gas that just hugs the ground as it spreads.
And right here, we see the first huge red flag. This was a disaster just waiting to happen. Company rules were crystal clear. This tank should be, at most, half full. But on that night, it was nearly 3/4 full. It was holding 42 tons of MIC, when the absolute maximum was supposed to be 30. The stage was already set for catastrophe.
Now, this wasn't just a single mistake. This was a complete and total systemic collapse. So the crucial question is, how did a leak that should have been totally manageable spiral into an uncontrollable, city-killing disaster?
I mean, just look at how fast this all went down. Just after midnight, workers notice a tiny leak. 25 minutes later, the pressure in that tank is literally off the scale. By 1 a.m., the gas is just pouring out into the night sky, and by 3 a.m., the city's hospitals are completely overwhelmed, dealing with a medical crisis they don't even understand yet.
And that just leads us to the absolute core question of this entire tragedy. There were 6 different safety systems, 6 of them, designed specifically to prevent this exact scenario from ever happening. So how is it possible that every single one of them failed at the exact moment they were needed most?
It was a perfect storm of failure, a complete domino effect. First, a bad valve lets water into the tank, kicking off that violent reaction. But the staff in the control room is slow to realize what's happening. Why? Because the pressure gauges are broken. Okay, what about the gas scrubber meant to neutralize the leak? It was offline for maintenance. The flare tower that could have burned the gas off safely? Totally useless. A critical pipe had been removed. A final last-ditch effort with water hoses fails because they're too short to even reach the leak. And maybe worst of all, the very first line of defense, a system designed to keep water out in the first place, hadn't even been working for weeks. It was a total and completely preventable failure.
So, after the horror of that night, you'd think there would be accountability, right? Justice? Well, what came next was a story of corporate maneuvering and a profound, decades-long failure to deliver any real justice at all.
Just look at the two sides of this. The injustice is laid bare right here. On one side, you have over 25,000 dead, 500,000 injured, and decades of suffering. And on the other side, a $470 million out-of-court settlement. The American CEO, he was arrested, posted bail, and immediately fled India, never to return or face trial. The only convictions finally came 26 years later. A few local managers got hit with some pretty minor fines. That's it.
And you know, this story isn't over. It's not in the past. The decisions that were made back in the 1980s, all in the name of saving a little money, have created a legacy of poison that the people of Bhopal are still living with today.
This was not some freak accident that just came out of nowhere. It was the predictable result of a clear pattern. In the very year of the disaster, Union Carbide cut the plant's budget. And that's exactly why faulty equipment was never fixed or replaced. Even worse, there had been 5 previous gas leaks in the years leading up to the main disaster. One of them had even killed a worker. The warning signs were all there, blinking bright red, and they were just ignored.
And today, right now, that abandoned factory is still standing there, like a monument to the tragedy. And it's still leaking toxic waste into the ground. The soil, the water, it's all dangerously contaminated. Survivors, and now their children, suffer from unusually high rates of chronic disease and birth defects. For the people of Bhopal, this disaster never really ended.
So that leaves us with this final, haunting question. When you really look at it, the 25,000 dead, the generations of suffering that poisoned land, you have to ask yourself, what is the true cost of putting profit ahead of people's lives?